Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Statements by Rainbow, and of course I'm Rainbow. So in today's topic, I want to switch it up, not focus on the children, but the children. So nobody tell us really how it is when dealing with raising teens and young adults. And me myself, I have 4 children. The oldest is 23. Then I have two 19-year-olds. They're not twins. And then a 14-year-old. Um, when I say, I thought that when they were younger, um, I couldn't wait till they got older. The same way I couldn't wait till when I was younger. I couldn't wait till I got older. And I remember the old folks saying, wait till you get here. You're gonna wish you was a kid again. And I'm singing all the way. And again, I want to hit notes on when I was growing up. I grew up pretty fast, personally. If you got the kids around, maybe not the little kids, you might want to put them out. But I'm gonna be honest. That's the only way I know how to be. Growing up, I lost my virginity. I had just turned 12, maybe 3 or 4 weeks prior. I did more things than I should have at that age. When I lost my virginity at 12, the guy was 19. What else? Started messing with females at 13. And I also know as a teenager that I got myself in a situation where I caught a charge. Malicious wounding, assault, and such forth at 13. Got arrested. Was on probation, house arrest, and stuff like that. Me and my mom relationship was not good. I can remember us going back and forth. The same lip I got on me now, I had a lip on me then. But I was a kid and didn't want to go to school. Partying, of course, underage partying. I would go to the teen events, but I started going to the club at 16. I did parties, dancing, meeting guys on the chat line. You named it, I done it. I can remember trying to drink underage, smoking, all those things. Caught my first disease at 16. So I've done a lot. And I know the cycles, they repeat themselves or whatever. And I don't know what I was thinking. When I was younger, oh, wait till you have kids, you're going to see. And then your thought process is, oh, no, I ain't going to be like you. I'm going to be this type of mom. I'm going to do this. My kid's going to listen. That was crap. If I could go back and say my younger self, girl, you don't know what you're talking about. And I know I didn't want to listen. Very few role models. And I always I always hung with older people and such. So of course, a lot of the guys I talked to was way older than me. Looking for love, looking to have fun, just doing me, not caring, not having a care to where I'm living my best life. So I thought, which I know people say, oh, I'm grateful. There's a yes and a no to that. If I could change a lot of things, I would. But I'm also glad that I do have some of the experiences that I do have. So I'm able to talk to other people and do videos like this as well as talk to my children. Because, if you ain't done nothing, how you going to be able to tell somebody? I can't sit here. I've never done crack. So I can't sit here and really fully tell a person who's on crack how to get off of it, so I could tell them, the knowledge of what I've seen from others or what I've read and stuff like that, and where I see their path is going. But it ain't gonna be a real connection because I've never done it. I haven't beat it, or it's because I ain't never used it to beat it, So, the next note I want to talk about is the difference of things that the kids are dealing with nowadays than then. And it's a lot of the same things, but of course the most obvious one, social media. You got these different apps that these kids go on. You got these little hidden apps that you know nothing about. So versus back then, maybe a lot of people wrote more into a diary. Now these kids ain't writing in no diary per se. They might put certain things in their phone, or they posting on social media, a lot of the things you're dealing with, and you might not even know that they have that social media platform or something like that. Or of course you're not their friend up there. And then as well as having social media, you have much more celebrities and YouTubers, content creators, influencers, and stuff like that that's doing just that. You sit here and you go on social media and you see somebody's living this lavish lifestyle, and maybe they're not showing, or they don't have a 9 to 5 or whatever. So these kids, they're going out and looking at, oh shoot, I want to be a content creator, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes certain things are put on the internet to look a certain way, but it really ain't that way. You don't know if somebody got a sugar daddy, or their parents are paying for certain things, just different stuff, or they're renting to own a lot of the stuff that they're showing, and these kids want these certain lifestyles. As well as with social media, the times that we live in, that, back then, how we really saw celebrities was on BT, looking at 106 & Park, MTV and stuff like that, music videos. Or you remember you had to go get a magazine, and you'll be turning out the Teen Choice magazines and all that stuff, and you turn out a page that put on your wall of your favorite celebrity, your little crush or group or whatever like that. But versus now, things are so much instant. And another thing, having these phones, tablets, and all these different things, everything is much easier access than what it was from, dating, looking up laws, or, just different things that they're able to do that back then you had to either go to the library, or you had to look in a dictionary, you had to talk to people and stuff. Another difference is, for me, that I've noticed, is there's a lot more diagnosis. Mental health is, and it's not to say that it wasn't happening back then, but it's way more high. Like nowadays, I hear so many children with anxiety, depression, obesity, even, autism, ADHD, ADD, and different stuff like that. But back then, not to say that it wasn't around, but maybe there wasn't a name for it, or it just wasn't as often, or it was labeled something differently, So, like, I really don't remember so many children that were around me when I was younger that dealt with anxiety and depression like that. And it's like I said, if it was out of the class, you might got one or two people that have these different things going on, versus now you got about 4 or 5 kids dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety and stuff like that. And like I said, autism and different things like that. Also, now the children, Uber, Lyft is their best friend. Back then it was, you had to ask mom for a ride, or you rode a bike. It was many days. I know I don't walk, going to see somebody, and had to go through 3-4 different neighborhoods before I got to where I was going. And I probably even had some little heels on while I was doing it. Speaking of heels, another thing is the appearance. the appearance has went totally down. You got, back then, we snuck and wore, that was the thing, we snuck and wore certain things. I can remember me stealing my little sister's shirt just so I could have a belly shirt on, or wearing a friend's clothing that was a little older or a little smaller but my mama didn't buy it. Versus now, parents are used to have even the smallest kids, with certain things on that, especially little girls, that you just like, what is going on? Like the schools nowadays, I'm wondering, is there even a dress code? Because, like I said, I would sneak and wear certain things. And when I get to school, you had to do the hand test, put your hands straight down, and they would judge from where your fingertips was to how short your shorts or your skirt or dress was. Versus now, these girls, they dressing like they mamas. And the mamas are buying it, or giving them the freedom to wear these things. And a lot of, they're in the pictures, they dancing. That's another thing, certain dances you did with your friends, you ain't do it with your mama. But your mama nowadays, they egging you on to do the dances so they can record you, put you on social media, and show their friends, showing you off. And you got so much perversion out here, and they're not even thinking about that. Another thing is the kids aren't forced to do certain things that they had to do back then. Chores, cooking, cleaning, washing your clothes, just different things that you need to know how to do once you get older, unless you have some type of disability and stuff like that. There's a lot more pals out, kids. Like I said, it's not that it didn't happen then. You got a lot more kids bringing pals to school, making a mistake, unaliving people, or purposely unaliving people or themselves. The laws are different for these children. The system is different, like I said, I done been through some things and going through some things with these kids. And you talking about a detention home. Officer told me, unless they unalive, rob, those type of things, they ain't worrying about putting these kids in the detention center, so you got to deal with them, and but let you handle them, it would be different. You'll be the one locked up. Also, the community is different when it comes to these kids. A lot of the kids, again, ain't scared of nothing, say cursing. Back then, when you walking down the street, you kind of whisper cuss words to your friend when you walking past an adult. Now these kids, they cussing right in front of you freely, just as flowing, not no oops, my bad, no slips, no nothing. They fluently cursing in front of you. And back then, regardless of who the adult was, they was gonna check you. Watch your mouth. Wash your mouth out with some soap. These kids now, go ahead, dare to say something, check them. They might hurt you. So a lot of people don't want to be even involved with the children. The same way the children are on social media, the parents are too. So they're not paying the children any attention. Like I said, the kids, it's like a half and half. You got some that go outside, but they out there getting in trouble. Some, just honestly hanging with friends. And then you got other kids that's too young folks that's just too scared to even go outside, got social anxiety and stuff like that. Then the next part of sex. Nowadays, it's more, it's like you a square, or whatever word they use now, if you ain't out here doing something with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Everything's so sexualized that it's like, oh no, I got to do it. Oh, I want to see what this about. Oh, I need to make sure, you know. Of course, it's always been, a lot of the times, guys, it's like a game. They got to get a certain amount under their belt, or they looked at as like a punk, or they soft, or are they homosexual or something like that. As parents, I know we are feeling overwhelmed, defeated, tired, confused, frustrated. We don't know what to do. You feel like you alone. You don't have any help. And some people are taking things in their own hands, or some people are just washing their hands away with the young adults and the teens, because it's too much. You have some that have done, for myself, all that I can do. And sometimes you feel guilty. Well, where did I go wrong? And sometimes it ain't mean that you done everything you were supposed to do and can do, and it's just not enough, because now that these teens and young adults, they're not 5, they're not 9 years old, that they have their own mind now, and they have decided to do certain things, and so, trying to figure out life and what works for them, what don't works, or there's underlying issues that rebellion or acting out and different stuff like that, or might not even be a bad kid, but just made some wrong choices and stuff like that. And you trying to figure out, well, how can I get through to this child? Like, we scared for them, we're scared for ourselves, and sometimes you feel like a failure or whatever, because things aren't turning out the way you thought it would be. As I said earlier, me saying, as I was younger, saying, oh, what type of parent I was gonna be, and I am still that parent, but a lot of trial and error. Sometimes, especially if you got multiple kids, sometimes you notice that certain things you did with that first kid, work in certain areas versus that second kid. Those same particulars don't work. It's not a one size fit all type of parenting. And these days, I know they talk about gentle parenting and stuff like that. And some kids you can do that with, and some kids you got to be tough with. And some kids, unfortunately, that it don't matter which one you do. It don't matter at all. The kids these days, they do need, role models. And it's hard because I can say for myself, there's not many men in my life that I deal with, and either the ones that I do deal with, they ain't got themselves together, and how can they be a role model and they still doing some of the things that the young ones doing, and they're still trying to figure it out, and they might feel, hey, I'm grown, I'm living my life, I ain't got the answer to nobody, and so forth. And not to just put it on the men, because you got some women out here that ain't got themselves together either. They're still out here doing particular things that they shouldn't be doing as an adult or as a parent, and not thinking about, the child is looking at that, and like, how you gonna say something about them, say relationship wise, and you can't mean you messing with Tom, Dick, Harry, Sean, John, and Paul. Like, what can you say? The children also, they need support. They got a game, whatever they're into, job interview, different stuff, giving them pointers on how to carry themselves, and, support the good things, not the bad. But they need a support system. Sometimes they feel like they don't have one, so they're just relying on their friends or their mates and different stuff like that. And also, these young adults, they need sometimes therapy. Some of them have probably been through certain situations that they've probably never talked to you about, or don't know how to talk to you about, or didn't even realize that that was a certain situation that, they was dealt a bad hand. Also, as parents, we have to talk to our children. We got to be honest. They're not, like I said, they're not toddlers anymore. You got to be honest. Don't sit here and just letting them think certain things that they're doing is okay. So if, you see your son, his pants sagging and different stuff like that, check him. Your daughter, she got a little boo and she just talking out the side of her neck to her boo, like belittling them. You check her. Also, we got to be honest with our kids, because a lot of the times we don't want to. Clearly, I'm up here I told y'all some of the things that I've done that we don't want to tell our past. It's like, oh, I've been a goody two shoe all my life, or even if you saved, that you've been saved all your life, that you ain't done mistakes. We all have, some worse than others, but you have done something that as a young person that, in your older years that you probably wouldn't do. So being honest so they can connect with you and be like, okay, maybe she done told me the truth, that maybe I could be even truthful with her or him, and just talking to your kids, seeing what's going on, what they into, who they into, what they being around, be nosy. That's your child, nobody else's but yours. Be nosy, be involved parent. And that's another thing. We have too many households that, either the kid is living with grandma or just mom or even just dad, or sometimes you have 2-parent households where one parent is working so much that it's like the other parent is a single parent. You got to be there and know when, hey, I can't go to work today, or hey, I'm gonna have to leave work early or something, to check on seeing what's going on with my kid, not just that one. And let's let people know, oh, they got more than one person that's a support system. The laws definitely need to change when it comes to these kids, because if they're thinking this stuff is cute now or it's okay and they just giving them a little slap on the wrist, a lot of the times they're going to be in the system quicker than where they would have not been if the laws were different. As well as the community, we got to come together and, like I said, check these kids. And another thing, they need to have more programs. Back then we had the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, just different little after school programs and, different things that the kids could go to and interact in, to keep them motivated and, to help them out where maybe the parents fall or the school falls short, as well as, the teachers. We can't have the teachers trying to holler at the students and, do things with the students, and or you just bypassing letting this kid slip through certain cracks because you just there to do a job and that's it. You could care less. As well as going back to the system, the same thing, the system failing some of the children and they hadn't pulled that child out of that chaotic household, and so they're making it up to be adults, and now they lost in the sauce because they've had all this chaos going on in their home for all these years, and now they're a young adult. What better do they know? As parents, we have to support each other. We need a listening ear. Sometimes we need therapy, counseling, family therapy, individual therapy, as well as taking time for ourselves, because sometimes being a parent, we wear so many hats that, especially when it comes to taking care of our children, that we put ourselves on the back burner and don't enjoy certain things in life. And then I don't mean, just going out partying, but if that means once a week you go into Barnes and Nobles and you can drink you a cup of coffee, read a book, read a newspaper, whatever it is, just to decompress, or go get a massage, or even take a vacation, or do something, or even, having a support group to just vent about the things you're dealing with as being a parent and, raising teenagers and having young adults. Another thing, we have to teach our children responsibility. you know, teaching them finances, how to manage and budget money, talking about credit, teaching our kids even how to even write a signature, because a lot of the schools don't teach that anymore, as well as making sure their reading is up to par, because that's another thing. A lot of people don't know how to read, and there's so many resources out here and different things to help them learn how to read. Like I said, being able to even count their money or tell time that's not on a digital clock. Just certain things we got to talk and do. We can't put it all on everybody else, and not, take some accountability ourselves to teach our children how to take accountability when they come across certain things that they need to take accountability for. And I know the kids, they be feeling like we doing too much. You don't know what you talking about. You old. They don't do that no more. It ain't like that these days. Mama just want to fuss and complain. And sometimes they just ain't trying to hear it, honestly. They just ain't trying to hear it. As well as, Mom, you want me to be whack, don't you? You want me to be a square. They're going to choke me. A lot of the things the kids are doing nowadays, like I said, unaliving themselves or others, stealing, lying, cursing around adults, just, extra amounts of sexual intercourse, smoking, doing drugs, being sneaky, sneaking the kids, sneaking their booze in, or sneaking inside their boo house or whatever like that, skipping school, just not being aware of their finances and just blowing it. And then a lot of kids now, they got a sense of entitlement. Then, like I said, teaching our children how to pick the right mate, as well as another thing that the children are doing nowadays is don't think they need to work. They're I'm you had me, so you should take care of me type of attitude, as well as talk to your kids about contributing to minors, and as well as contributing to certain situations that they shouldn't in activities. We got also the kids are dealing with being closed off, not able to take simple directions. Our children, they fighting, and they ain't fighting fair either, so try to tell them, look, baby, I understand so-and-so did this to you, but do you want to come home at the end of the day? Is it worth fighting? And maybe one person ain't trying to fight with their fist. They might be trying to fight with a weapon. So also talk to your children about paying attention to their surroundings. A lot of the kids these days, and even adults, not just the young adults, keeping their headphones in, not paying attention to what's going on. You calling their name 3-4 times. You finally, you hit them like to get their attention. That like, you ain't hear me calling you. Nope. And like I said, talking to them. Not just y'all in the same house and y'all texting each other. Actually having a conversation. The last thing, hygiene. Teaching them how to properly cleanse themselves and to deal with people that even properly cleanse themselves, and keeping your toes and feet decrusted is what I'm gonna say. Your nails, and I ain't saying no, you need to go get artificial nails. That's not what I'm saying, and this is for females and males. Making sure your nails right, not dirt all underneath them. And making sure your hair is right, your groom, your facial hair and different stuff is set. And just caring, looking clean, washing your clothes, washing your hand pots. Those things are important, because sometimes when they get a certain age, they smell like little puppies. They've been playing outside all day. So talk to them about it to get that stuff situated right. Again, parents, you are not alone. Figure out something to help you with this parenting thing, because they ain't going away. They here. They here. Whether you want to say thank God for my kids or not, They are here. So we got to deal with them and figure out the best way to deal with them for your sanity and your peace. But no, it ain't gonna always be that. But I just wanted to hit some of these things because, boy, these kids over here, I ain't got no gray hair. But if the saying is true about somebody wearing you to death and then get a gray hair, I should have a whole patch in these locks right about now. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.